Each year, Microsoft Research hosts hundreds of influential speakers from around the world, including leading scientists, renowned experts in technology, book authors, and leading academics, and makes videos of these lectures freely available.
In the immortal words of Monty Python, and now for something completely different. I am Sierra Madro. I'm from Wacom, and yes, I am indeed a technology evangelist. It even says that on my business card. And I'm here to talk today about the future of digital ink. Where are we going, and how are we going to get there? But first, I have a couple of confessions.
Sorry, is your mic on?
Yeah. Are you not getting me? First, I have a couple of confessions. One is that I am a tech geek. I am not a researcher. I'm not an instructor. And my background is in, specifically, technology and in pens. I am thrilled to be here at WIPTTE because I remember when the announcement went out for the very first WIPTTE at Purdue University, back when it still only had one T. And I so wanted to go, and I had absolutely no excuse to be there. Thankfully, years later, I now have an excuse to be here and understand what your experiences are and how we at Wacom can help. I am a long-term, devoted pen enthusiast. I am, however, despite working at Wacom, not an artist. And I say that emphatically. About the best I can do is, in fact, a smiley face. And here we will show, no, go back. We'll show the extent of my artistic capability. Pen. There we go. And there's more. I can turn this into a sun. There we go. Those of you in elementary school teaching probably recognize this quite well. That's as far as I go. But thankfully, that's not all that a tablet PC can do. I came to tablets from a completely different route, not art. I came because I had repetitive stress injuries in my right forearm from way too much mousing. And I had been through physical therapy 2 times in 3 years. I knew what the next step was, and it involved a knife. I was not happy about that option. So I went looking and discovered the very first tablet PCs. And I discovered the Acer C110. This was about 2003. I got one in the off chance it might help with my RSI. But what I didn't expect was to discover creativity, to discover a way to think differently about everything that I was doing during the course of the day. I worked at Intel. I ran a hardware validation lab. This was not an area where I expected to have creative thought. But when I got that tablet in my hands, suddenly I was thinking differently. Over time, that ended up leading me to the motherland. And now I am a technology evangelist at Wacom. And I'm at the motherland, which has been a fabulous opportunity for me. We at Wacom believe that creativity is the future of the world. We believe that creativity will change the world. We create things all day long, every single day, and we have the opportunity to be more creative. Great art, culture, world-changing thoughts and ideas, new technologies, new business ideas. These all come from human creativity. Creativity is what makes us human. It brings us alive. It adds richness to our lives. It brings ideas, imagination, beauty. And at Wacom, we believe in a world alive with creativity. That's our vision. That is the corporate founding vision, a world alive with creativity. Creativity in each of us makes this world a better place. It allows us to freely explore and create new ideas and express them in a way that creates an enjoyable life. Now, you may notice in this 2 words that are obviously missing: pen and ink. That's because ink is not the only way to be creative. Creativity doesn't just mean ink or art or great painting. Remember my smiley face. Creativity is in all of us. Creativity is looking for new thoughts and new ideas, new ways of thinking. We look at creating the future of digital ink, and it's important to remember that creativity is for everyone. It's not just for artists. Wacom has built a business on digital creativity primarily in artistic space. And one of the things that we're really striving to do is make sure that we understand that creativity is for everyone. Art or science, math or music, it's for everyone. And creativity should not be held back by technical restrictions. This is something that we've heard many times from many of the speakers here, particularly those who are talking about mathematics and science instruction. The keyboard is not the ideal input device for most things. And unfortunately, it's become the input device that most people use for most things. We believe that creativity needs freedom. Freedom of the mind, freedom of thought. We've heard studies here at WIPTTE, particularly from Pam Mueller, that show that notes that are written with the pen are more effective for learning than notes that are typed. If we want a world alive with creativity, we need to understand that the technical limitations of keyboard and mouse are holding us back. We need ink. Ink helps us to capture and share any kind of code. Ink connects us. Whether you're capturing handwriting, music notation, math symbology, or East Asian language symbology, like we heard yesterday in Paul's talk, ink is the medium of expression. Ink makes thoughts permanent. We need a universal tool that breaks through the boundaries. We need digital ink. So what is the future of digital ink? Collaborative, international, ubiquitous, creative. And Wacom is enabling this creative future through a host of hardware technologies that most of you are familiar with, but also software technologies, particularly WIL, the Wacom Ink Layer Language. It's ink for the 21st century, delivered through the WIL platform. Now, most of you have probably not heard of WIL, so I'm going to be giving you a few examples, and then at the end, you get to see a demo. So you'll actually get to see WIL ink in action. WIL is a cross-platform universal ink system, and I do mean cross-platform. Whether you're running on iOS, HTML5, Android, doesn't matter. All of those are supported by WIL. You can capture thoughts and ideas, create notes and memos, share and collaborate. All of this can happen regardless of the hardware, regardless of the OS, regardless even of the pen or finger touch technology. You can view and organize this. WIL allows you to seamlessly exchange that data, regardless of through cloud platform and services. The idea sharing and collaboration becomes even more free, more independent. People can really focus on ideas and creativity without being limited by how they share those ideas with others around the world. This creative collaboration and idea development takes place in a completely new way in the digital world. We are looking to build a world of ink users. Yes, that includes Namibia. Supporting your creativity anytime, anywhere, regardless of your device. So looking a little bit more in depth, because I know there are some of you, because I've had conversations with you, some of you are software developers. Some of you will actually be able to use WIL directly in your applications to more seamlessly and straightforward add ink to any application. So looking at what WIL is, it allows pen feature APIs that attach to the hardware, and it has ink processing APIs that allow you to talk to software. So it is the bridge between the two, regardless of which you need to communicate with, what your hardware is, what your software is trying to do. WIL can enable that. And this is good for hardware researchers, software researchers, and it's very simple to implement. And it allows a diversity of input methods. We are at WIPTTE, which includes both pen and touch. So regardless of whether your input method is a pen or a finger, you need to get the same sort of digital fidelity of that ink input. And this digital fidelity is preserved through WIL. WIL allows you to actually capture that same beautiful, natural ink, regardless of the input method. These key elements, Universal Pen API, which, by the way, I want to talk a little bit about Universal Pen API, because I've talked to a number of you over the course of the past couple of days about pens, actual pens, which pens you like, which pens you don't like. The Universal Pen API in WIL allows you to actually choose your pens and have a breadth of opportunity for different types of pens, whether you like a heavy pen or a light pen or a short pen or a long pen. There's the opportunity here for pens to be developed that fit your needs. We also have an ink data format that allows the ink to be shared from application to application. And then finally, the Ink Engine SDK, which allows the capturing and visualization. We have a very high quality ink rendering engine that's a part of WIL. So the ink that is rendered on screen looks and feels exactly like yours. I mean, I know many of you probably use the signature test when you're trying out a new tablet, because there's a certain amount of muscle memory that happens when you sign your own name. And if it doesn't feel or look the way you expect, you know there's just something a little off. You may not know what it is, but you know there's something not quite right there. Well, with WIL, it renders and looks exactly the way you think it should. WIL also has benefits for the end users. The ink sharing is something that people really enjoy, the opportunity to share digital ink. I mean, as you've seen in several of the presentations, particularly around OneNote, with teachers and students being able to share ink back and forth. That kind of collaboration at an ink level is something that should be able to happen across platforms and across applications. It's smart ink with personalization of the data. There's more than just coordinates and pressure. We include metadata in WIL that can allow you to do things like understand the stroke velocity, understand which pen it is. All Wacom pens include a pen ID. By default, they always have. You just never knew about it in the past. But now with pen IDs, you can actually tell who wrote that particular stroke of ink. What pen did it come from? So there's a wealth of metadata that's actually collected and available to you when you're developing using the WIL SDK. And then finally, the natural ink. From the user's perspective, this one's probably one of the most important. It's the conversion of that ink data to what they see and what they feel. Because if the ink is lagging behind the pen, it doesn't feel right. If the strokes just don't seem to match what you're expecting, if it looks all jaggy, that's not going to feel right, and it reduces adoption rates of digital pen. We've overcome that. Again, the natural ink feeling is feeling like it's regular ink pen writing on a regular piece of paper. And fundamentally, for a lot of people, particularly if you're talking to older people who are more comfortable and more familiar with writing with pen on paper, having that natural feeling actually helps to overcome some of the mental objections, because it starts feeling more natural. It starts feeling more like, well, like they're accustomed to. And those feelings are the kinds of things that get them adopting new technology, when you can overcome those mental objections. The smooth capturing, the high performance data smoothing, ink data, and then the natural rendering, which again gets back to the people who really want it to look like their handwriting. I mean, I've really tried to write with a stylus on an iPad. And while I can do it, it never looks like my handwriting. It never feels like me. Ink and pen is a very personal feeling. It's a very almost intimate feeling that you get with your own association with your own handwriting. And we want people to experience that. We don't want there to be any barriers, technology barriers, to them feeling that digital ink is providing them everything that they come to expect from a pen on a piece of paper. And all of this is, of course, browser and cloud ready. Now, the back end of this is also enabled by Wacom Cloud, which I don't actually have a slide here on Wacom Cloud, but I do want to mention it because WIL and the cloud work together quite well. Now, you are perfectly free to develop and use your own cloud solution. You're also welcome and free to use the Wacom Cloud solution. Wacom Cloud allows ink sharing, straightforward, seamlessly, and allows people to share ink in a way that it just feels like someone gave you a piece of paper, and except it just showed up on your screen instead. So the Wacom Cloud is enabled back in the back end behind WIL. Now, that was a bit of technology data on WIL specifically, but it all comes back to Wacom's vision of what we're doing with WIL. We want WIL to become a global standard, and we want people to enjoy ink that's as natural as handwriting on paper. And if that happens, this could be the stationery store of the future, where you're going in and you're choosing the digital pen, not the Bic pen, off of the rack. And you're choosing the one that's the color and weight and size and shape that you most prefer. Heck, maybe you have a whole handful of pens because you have different pens you want to use for different applications. This could be the stationery store of the future. But fundamentally, WIL is a platform. It's not a product. It's not just something for Wacom, and it's not something exclusive to Wacom. It's not proprietary. WIL is a movement. It's not a project. Our intent is not owning. We want to share this technology. It's open for anyone to use, and since people were probably wondering, it's open for you to use freely. And by that, I do mean freely. We are starting this journey. It's a long-term commitment, and we're inviting everyone to join us on this journey because we think everyone can benefit from it. anyone can use and create ideas that make this world a better place. So we're inviting you to join that journey. Now, I left the demo for the end, in part because I have to attach another system to the projector. So this will take just 1 second because I want you to be able to see what Will can do and see a collaboration demo that I have set up. I also need 2 volunteers who know how to use a pen on a tablet. Is there anyone in here that knows how to use a pen on a tablet?
So while you're getting that ready, would anyone like to volunteer? Come up, is there one more volunteer? Oh, sorry, I didn't even see you. Come on up.
Okay.
Just sit next to you. So our volunteers are Will,
Where'd you go? For those of you who have not been projecting at some point during the course of this event, they have a truly remarkable number of options. Yay! Okay. Now, 2 volunteers? Okay. You get that one? You get this one? Yes. And as you start writing, what you're going to see is that this is a completely web-based collaborative demo. I have attached this system up here, which, there we go. I've attached this system up here simply so that you can see it projected. Both of them are attached to the same application that is enabled by Will, and it's running through the Wacom cloud server, which is, I don't know, somewhere in Europe. And this is real-time, instantaneous collaboration. Now, I'm sure, based off the smiles on some of your faces, that you can see immediate ideas for how something like this could be useful. With real-time collaboration, with the ideas that Will are supporting, this is just one way that Will can enable people to come together and share their creativity. There are many other ways that we doubtless have not thought of. And that's why why we created Will, why we want you to join us on this journey. Because, oh yeah. Yes, and it does support full pressure sensitivity as Hiro is discovering here. So all of the things that you expect out of pen, all the things you expect out of ink, all of this is enabled simply, quickly, easily. Think of the opportunities for you in your applications, in your environments. And if you're not someone who is a software developer, but you have great ideas, please let me know, because Wacom sees this as a partnership, and we want to make the world a more creative place. Together, we can do it.
Thank you very much, Sierra. And I guess we'll start with the blue shirt. I think you had your hand up first.
Are they seeing what we see up on the screen, or is there just a blank?
No, they're seeing exactly what you see here. It's mirrored across all devices.
All right. So now the blank should check out for you. Okay, got it.
So what's the state of play? Is this ready for people to use, or is it alpha, beta?
It is ready for people to use. It is available for download off of the Wacom website if you go to will.wacom.com. And yeah, it's freely available, and it's available today. So if you have ideas on how to use it, go to the website, get it downloaded. Yeah.
How long is the lag time from when they actually make the stroke to when it appears?
It's real time. It is imperceptible to human. Obviously, everything's measurable at a machine level. But when someone's writing, and looking at it, barring network glitches, obviously, it looks, you see it appearing there exactly as you're writing it. So it is a real-time collaboration. Yeah.
When you said you can download it right now, is that downloading like an API set that then you can bake into your app on any platform?
So the process of beginning to use Will, if you go to will.wacom.com, there is an evaluation agreement that you have to sign. But once you've done that, there is a download bundle that includes the documentation as well as the SDKs. You can download it for the three, for iOS, Android, HTML5. So you can get whichever platforms are appropriate for your particular application.
Any specific vendors using this?
Right now, the primary live application that you can go look at is Wacom's Bamboo Paper. That one's live. That one uses Will on the back end. There are other applications that are going to be coming out, but we don't pre-announce other people's products. Yeah.
Is paper available on all platforms or strictly the iOS store?
It's iOS, Android, and Windows. Yeah, we do have Windows available as well. Yeah. Now, I will admit that the feature set is not, for Bamboo Paper, is not the same across all three OSs right now because iOS and Android came along first. Oh. Yeah. Yeah, if you double tap it, it clears the screen. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, and they're discovering here that because these two are using Samsung devices that are touch as well as pen enabled, that the same thing happens with the finger that happens with the pen.
As I know, Wacom has their own HTML5 SDK, JavaScript SDK, so the browser can detect the pen input.
Mm-hmm.
Is real SDK for HTML5 the same one or backward compatible? Or?
It is not the same SDK. And the other one is a legacy SDK that works exclusively with Wacom products. The new SDK is cross-platform. It's cross-pen and touch technology. So it's far more adaptable than the older SDK. In terms of the upgrade path, honestly, I don't know. Yeah, I haven't had that question before, so I don't know the answer.
How
Yeah.
many simultaneous single interactions can be done by a single person? Or for the other person interacting with just a single person? How does that describe?
There is nothing in the SDK that limits that. So you're going to run into device limitations. So whatever the device allows you for input. So some devices allow full 10 finger, others don't. So that's going to be dependent on the device.
I had a quick question on, because of the scope of the conference meeting, what were some of the, that's a really good drawing here. What were some of the things that that you envision educators, or some things that you had some hope that educators would use with Will? What were some of the things that you envision Will would be used from the educators? I was curious about that.
For me, my ideas, because as I disclaimed at the very beginning, I am not a researcher and I'm not an instructor. So when I was thinking about it, it really came down to ideas around collaboration. And whether that collaboration is instructor to student, student to instructor, or if it's instructor to instructor for people trying to collaborate, sharing ideas on instructional technology or instructional methods in the classroom. It really comes down to the idea of sharing. I mean, I spend an awful lot of time talking about creativity, and the idea that creativity is in large part, it's about great ideas. And great ideas are formed stronger, better, and faster when we're working with other people. So when I look at this in the education space, it comes down to the idea of collaborating. Inc. has been traditionally a very solo kind of thing. I write on a piece of paper in my notebook, and it's mine. I may show you my notebook, but then I take it back again, and you don't have it anymore. If we have the idea of digital ink and being able to collaborate and share that ink, then it's allowing our ideas to go further and allowing other people to build on those ideas. I mean, if you think about a lot of the demos and things that we've talked about, that Wacom has talked about in the past, have been in more of a business setting, where people, in an office in the US are collaborating with an office in Europe, something like that. But it could be just as easily someone at a university in Southern California collaborating with instructors who are in Namibia. And doing that with digital ink without the restrictions that we have right now around the keyboard and around the different types of input methods that we have at this point. Depending on the applications that are built, that ink can be transient for the lifespan of that particular application on cycle, or it can be saved and shared and added to later. All of this is also, one of the things I didn't mention is because of the metadata that comes along with the ink in Will, there are also timestamps on every, it's not even pixels, but every instance, basically, of every point along as you're drawing. So you can actually go back and replay the ink as you're going along. So if this app supported it, which we didn't build it in for this demo, but I'd be able to go back and replay everything that these two have been drawing and writing. Now, if you combine that with the audio recording, for instance, that can be a very powerful way to share new information without any limitations. Yeah.
One thing I was thinking about with the pen ID or something, one of the things that has become a discussion, at least in a nominal sense, is the teacher's annotations, locking those from kids erasing it.
Mm-hmm.
So that, you could
Yes.
so if there's some way to ID that
Yes.
and say, sorry kids, you can't erase that would be really cool.
And there is. From the technology standpoint, what you're describing there is perfectly capable. You could have the ID of the instructor's pen or pens and basically say, no one can erase this ink, but they can erase their own ink or the other students' inks. So there are capabilities within the applications that Will supports that would allow you to do things like that. You could do it so that they can only erase their own ink. You could do it so they could erase anybody's ink, yours, whatever. And you could make it so that you can erase anyone's ink, but they can't. So all of those capabilities are controllable within the SDK. Other questions?
So
Yeah.
is this application public?
No, sadly, no. Although it's been something that we've certainly had a lot of requests for. So it's something we're looking into, at least. Because obviously, this is a very simple application. We actually created this for the Consumer Electronics Show in January. And so this is something that was for demo purposes. But when people see this, there's that aha moment. And I'm sure most of you have seen this, where you're talking to someone trying to explain the benefits of pen, digital pen, and they're staring at you blankly. And then you finally say something, and they get that, aha, that's why you use this thing. And one of the things we've discovered with this collaboration demo is it gives people the aha moment for digital ink and for Will. So that's something that it's very easy to understand for most people. Any other questions? I will be here all through the evening on the cruise as well and all day tomorrow. So if you have questions that come up at some point, feel free to find me.